I knew Stuart very well, by the way. I told you that. He sort of adopted me when I was a young college student. I met him at a conference, and we had a lasting correspondence. It lasted all the way until he died in 1980. Big guy, my size, very strong, and very egotistical. He was struck on himself. But, I mean, if you publish over 60 books, I guess you have the right to be struck on yourself, right? Anyway, great novelist, great short story writer, great poet. He entered Lincoln Memorial University in Harrogate, Tennessee in 1926, and that's really close to Middlesboro. And when he got to LMU, this is the LMU campus, you can't see it very well, but this is the LMU campus set in the mountains of East Tennessee. When he got there, he met some Melungeon students. Some of the students that he was going to school with were Melungeons, because they were from Newman's Ridge, not too far away, right? So they were going to college there. And he met this Melungeon girl. And as we know, Melungeon girls can be absolutely gorgeous. And he fell in love with her. He just fell head over heels in love with her. And she with him. But he got lots of pressure from his family. Because what do you think his family thought in 1930? What do you think his family thought? They didn't accept him because she was considered to be black. So we're having an interracial relationship. And it's more accepted today, although it hasn't quite gotten there where it needs to be, but back then it wasn't accepted at all. So the family put pressure on him, he broke up with her because of family pressure, but he never got over it. And so in 1942, he writes, and by the way, she took him to Newman's Ridge. There's all kinds of evidence in this novel that he visited Newman Ridge. We'll talk a little bit about a character in the novel who lived on Newman's Ridge, which is why we know that he probably was up there. But he never quite got over, so in 1942, he writes this novel. Why do you think he didn't publish it until 1965? Because of her and the whole racial thing, right? Interracial relationship. Because this book is about an interracial relationship, right? And so what was that like? Things got better in 1965. What happened in the 60s? Civil rights legislation, right? So it seemed to be the right time to publish this. So he published it. And by the way, that's the only book for which he was nominated. Well, there were two. The only novel for which he was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. He's also nominated for a book of poetry. But that's the novel. And it's a good novel. You just read it. Excellent. It's an excellent novel. Not all his novels were good. Some of them are pretty bad. And your instructor has another one here called Foretaste of Glory. This comes from the hymn, "Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine." That's where the title comes from. This is a book about the sighting of the Northern Lights in Eastern Kentucky, a rare sighting of the Northern Lights. And the fundamentally religious people thought it was the end of time. So this is a story about what all they did because they thought it was the end of time. It's kind of an interesting book. And I remember in 1976, I went to the University of Chicago to work on my doctorate, and I was living in a high-rise apartment on Lake Michigan, and for the very first time I saw it, lightning and thunder in a snowstorm. I found out later that's pretty normal. It does that a lot. But I thought it was the end of time. I really did. I'd never seen that before. I'm standing up there going, this poor old hillbilly boy in a big city. I'm going, yeah, this is it. You know, Jesus is coming. Take me away. And so the novel incorporates stories that he collected while he was dating this Melungeon girl. Okay. And he tells the story of this white boy from Southwest Virginia named Dave Stone King, who travels to Oak Hill, a pseudonym for Sneedville, Tennessee, in 1940. And there he meets this beautiful dark-skinned girl named Astucia, and who lives up on Sanctuary Mountain, which is really Newman's Ridge. Dirt changes all these names. And he falls in love with her, and he can't understand why people don't understand how he can love this girl. He's so much in love with her. But the community chastised him for dating her, gave him a lot of pressure, gave him a hard time, including his own best friend gave him a hard time. To be a Dewberry. So what happens basically is that in the novel she dies of childbirth, by the way. And so he abandons her and the whole idea of dating Melungeon. Here's another Melungeon. This one looks distinctly different than all the ones we've seen so far. Notice the shape of the head. And there's a big knot usually back here. Some Melungeons have that feature. Not sure what the ethnic origin of that is. Here's Stuart on the right, and in the middle when he was younger. There's the cover, Daughter of the Legend. What's wrong with this cover?
What's your blonde hair?
Yeah! Why do you think she does? Why do you think she ended up with blonde hair?
Because he didn't want people to know that she was.
Believe it or not, he had no control over this cover. Authors have little or no control over the cover. The publisher comes up with that. So they put a good, blonde white girl on the front. Although the book is about a girl.
Maybe
They didn't read the book or something. But they put this blonde white girl on the front of the book. There are no blondes. There are no blonde Melungeons. Believe me. None of that happened. And there's another version of it. I think that's a paperback version of it.
She still has blonde hair.
She still has blonde hair. And those, distinctly white lips. Red lips. Now, one of the characters in here, one of the reasons we know Stuart was up on Newman's Ridge is there's a character in here, he calls her Sylvania. And she lives in this log cabin up on Newman Ridge. And she's a bootlegger and moonshiner. And Stuart says in the book, I think it's 600 pounds, isn't it? He says in the novel that she weighs 600 pounds. And I asked him once, I had a dinner with him, I said, Stuart, you had to be exaggerating. Woman couldn't weigh 600 pounds. He said, as a matter of fact, she probably weighed more than that. We couldn't get a scale to weigh her. Her real name was Mahalia Mullins. And they called her Big Haley. And they couldn't arrest her because she had grown up in this cabin. They couldn't get her through the door. Couldn't get her through the door. And when she died, oh, by the way, the sheriff sent a deputy up there to arrest her once, and he came back with whiskey, and he didn't know Mahalia. And when the sheriff asked him about it, he said, she's catchable, but she ain't fetchable. Couldn't get her out of the house. So she had a heyday bootlegging because they couldn't arrest her. As soon as they left, she just had more whiskey. Right? When she died, they cut the legs of the bed off, built a coffin around the bed, tore the chimney out of the side of the house, took her out the chimney, and took her down, buried her in the cemetery. And Stuart goes into great detail in this novel about how many board feet of lumber it took. There were 14 pallbearers. I think some of that's exaggeration. But nevertheless, makes a good story. Right? There she is on the left, Mahalia, and there she is on the right, another picture of her. Call her Big Haley.
So that's what she looked like when she passed away?
Yes, on the left she looked probably more like that. This is younger, when she was younger. Her husband was one of the legends about her is that they tore the bedroom floor out where her bed was, and they dug a hole underneath the floor and lowered her down into there and murdered her under the floor of the bedroom. That really didn't happen. And then her husband got remarried, and he didn't want to be a frolicking, as he said, a frolicking with the new wife up there above, Big Haley. Big Haley was buried below the floor. So the legend is he moved out of the bedroom. He didn't want Mahalia to come back to my beating to death. So when Stuart went up there, he found all kinds of interesting stories, right? And so they somehow they get moved into this novel. Some of it's true, some of it isn't true. That's the whole beauty of fiction. There's the cabin, the side of the cabin where the chimney was torn out. Had 20 children. He gave birth to 20 children. Yes, he gave birth to 20 children. And sometimes people say, some legend is he got poisoned by rival moonshiners. They put poison in some whiskey. Died from it. Here's the cabin before, and there's the cabin after. They group got a hold of it and restored it, and moved it, by the way. That's, and here's the little plate that goes on the side of the cabinet. This is her obituary, handwritten obituary, by the way. Isn't the internet fabulous? Go in there and find Mahalia Mullins's handwritten obituary. This is unbelievable. And here are some publications, just to show you, if you wanna read some more on Melungeons, here it is, people. There's all kinds of stuff out there. Here's a CD and 5 books on Melungeons. There's, 7 more. These are all book titles. So there's been a lot written. There's another bunch of titles about Melungeon. So all you gotta do is go on Google and Google it, and you can find all, you can Google images, you can find all the book covers, and